Hello and welcome to Movies, Films, and Flicks. I am Mark Hoffmeyer, and joining me is a man that is about to kick some alligator tail. It's David Cross.
I'm going to kick it so hard, but I'm going to dodge that tail because it is very powerful and very fast. So a lot of like somersaults, a lot of diving, but then, one quick boot to the bum. That's what's going to happen.
And then after that, I'll just see you flying 40 feet into the air into a cake.
Yeah, through a plane, like glass pane, and then into a cake.
Some of the best cake destruction I've ever seen. And I jumped into this episode saying that you were going to kick Alligator's tail because I also watched the television cut of Alligator, which they released first. So they made the movie, they sold the TV rights, released it 3 times on TV. Then they had to struggle to get it in theaters, and then it became a success. But I watched one of my favorite moments in Alligator is when Robert Forster he's getting ready to go battle the alligator. And so David Madison's talking to Dr. Marissa Kendall, and he takes his keys, throws them up in the air. He's like, I'm going to go kick some alligator ass. And it's probably one of my favorite moments ever. I don't care. No hyperbole, David. I love that moment. But in the TV cut, he said, I'm going to go kick some alligator tail. And he also tells her that she has beautiful eyes, not something else in the TV cut. But when Robert Forster does that, throws those keys in the air, then catches them behind his back, I think I looked over and I said to my wife, I love this movie.
This movie is very cheeky.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun humor to it. I'm very, very excited to talk about it, honestly.
Karen Kusama on the Shout Factory Blu-ray, which is stacked and loaded with there's a Bryan Cranston interview that's wonderful, but she said that she worked with John Sayles. She was his assistant. And she said that this movie really works because it's funny, it's scary, and it's coherent. And she said it's a lot of things movies can't do. So this movie really is funny, scary. I wrote my notes, holy blank. Well, you know what? I said, holy shit, Megan, when that first alligator jump scare in the tunnel. But yeah, I yelled that. And it's coherent. It's a logical story that goes from A to B. The bad guys get their comeuppance. Really likable leads, very cheeky moments. And I'm so happy that you and I decided to do this series because I adore this movie.
Yeah. I'd also add likable alligator.
Yeah.
With a tragic backstory.
Yeah, it's not that. You know what's interesting too is the alligator in this story is very much so a tragic figure, but at least it kind of destroys its makers. It gets the dog killers. It gets the scientists. And the problem is it's become such a nuisance that you can't put it anywhere. This thing can explode through concrete, so it's not going to go in a zoo. If you put it in a remote population, it's going to wipe out the local. It's going to be so invasive, David. So it kind of, for better or worse, it kind of had to blow up. But then showing us another alligator at the end makes you feel better. Like, it's handled really well.
We're going to get Alligator 2, which we did 10 years later.
And I bought that Blu-ray as well from Shout Factory.
You did?
Yeah.
You're a brave man. I read the reviews and I was like, I'm not doing this.
I've been on a monster tear because of our latest series. So I got Piranha, and then we have Grizzly. I bought Alligator 2. I got The Bean from Kino Lorber. I got Tentacles from Kino Lorber. And then I bought The Great Alligator by Sergio Martino from Kino Lorber as well. So I've been on like a 1980s, 1970s monster movie kick. Because, I would say for what, 2-3 years, David, you and I, we covered vampire, universal horror. We covered
vampires and werewolves. That was my thing. You needed experts on vampires and werewolves. That's me. Yeah. Now it's experts on big monsters, I guess, big animals.
So what led us to this new series? Like, what was it because of the Alligator Blu-ray or 4K that came out?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I pitched the initial idea. I was like, hey, we should do something in July for Jaws. Jaws originally came out in July, and then it just, in typical MMF fashion, spiraled into, okay, we're just going to do a series on Jaws ripoffs.
Yeah. Never the obvious thing. Always something to the left of that.
Yeah. I mean, but the thing is, like, I really love Jaws, and I generally love monster movies, so it felt like this was a good pairing of things I want to do. And I've never seen any of these movies. I'm going to preface that. So, like, we're going to do Piranha.
Written by John Sayles and Joe Dante.
Grizzly, and then we're going to do one more.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one it was, but I've never seen any of these. So I felt like it's a combination of like I love monsters, I want to do a series, I love Jaws, and I want to watch movies I haven't seen before. So this is how we ended up here.
I don't think I could do an episode on Jaws because it's my favorite movie. I have watched, I was working on a film set and I ducked out during the lunch, which I probably shouldn't have, and I ran to a Best Buy and I bought the new special edition, like the 35th anniversary, 40th anniversary Blu-ray. We were at this place called The Dump, like a large furniture store, and I just ran away from there to this Best Buy when I was in, let's see, not Buckhead. Yeah, Buckhead area. I sprinted to a Best Buy and bought it, and then sprinted back and made it just in time to get my Jaws Blu-ray when it came out. And I've read the book on it. I've just spent so much time with. I have the art of Jaws. I don't know if I could do an episode because I know so much about it. It would just be a mess for me, if that makes sense.
It's also been dissected by everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Like what new things can we say about that? Like, I don't think I could say anything new. It has been talked about every which way. It's like the Fast and Furious of the 1970s, right? Like, there's a million things about it already.
Yes, so much. And that's why I'm glad we're doing this, because I had never watched Alligator, but then we saw the new 4K coming out, and it got a lot of buzz. And what's crazy is, I don't always go by critical scores, but I went online and I looked at Rotten Tomatoes. Alligator's 83%. That's not something I could have predicted in my wildest dreams.
Never. That's way higher than I thought it was going to be.
And you know what, though?
Same thing.
I watch it now, and I know Ebert gave it a bad review because of the time when it came out. There's a lot of Jaws knockoffs, which I would argue that this is kind of a 50s knockoff as well as a Jaws knockoff because of the mutated creature. Like, it's very them. It's like, the writer John Sayles studied a lot of Japanese films and kind of built the premise around that, because I think he had a few weeks to write this movie or rewrite the movie, because it originally took place in Milwaukee and the alligator got big because of beer. And then he said, well, the people in Milwaukee aren't big and they drink beer from the glass, so I don't know why the alligator would be bigger, which made me laugh. And we've also covered Crawl too, which makes me really happy. Which is another one of my favorite movies of recent memory. So it makes sense. We talk a lot of monsters. And just this movie, man, I adore it. I think Robert Forster and Marissa Kendall are perfection together. And even though he's 39 in this role and she's 28, when he does that key flip thing, she looks at him. You're like, she likes him. Like, these two, they have great chemistry. Like, I love these two together. They're like a great pairing. And it's such like it's almost like a Tremors type movie to me, where it's just likable, like you said. It's just an enjoyable ride.
It's just self-aware enough.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so I'm glad you brought up that Roger Ebert review, because I read that literally right before we jumped on this. I think he doesn't get it. I mean, that's very rare for him not to get the premise of a movie, but I really think he just did not understand what was going on, missed the humor completely.
Yeah, you're right.
Because this film it takes itself 80% seriously, 75% seriously. And then it has the funny moments calling out like, oh yeah, we know what we're doing is dumb, but that's what you do in a giant monster, giant animal movie.
Yeah.
It's a little self-aware.
This is a monster movie made by good filmmakers. Very and solid performers in this movie. I mean, this is like this could have been a direct to sci-fi film, or it could have taken itself way too seriously. Like like Shark Bait that I watched recently, the jet ski shark movie. It takes itself so seriously. So
really?
Yeah.
Oh no,
and
I was gonna watch that today.
Oh god. Oh sorry. I mean, I bought it. Who cares? I did an episode on it. But it yeah, you're right. It finds a way just to. I mean, the beginning of this movie features Robert Forster. He has a receding hairline around this time. And he decided that he didn't want audiences to watch it and call out his receding hairline, so he just had jokes about it throughout the movie. The pet store owner calls him out. His love interest, Marissa, calls him out. She like messes with his hair. At the end, she tells him he has a high forehead. Another guy tells him that he should do a comb over, but he did that on purpose so that people wouldn't call him out for it. It's a recurring gag about the lead actor in a movie's receding hairline. It's the strangest thing, but it gives the movie so much charm to it that I don't know, that's
you don't see that very often,
no,
right?
No.
Right? The thing that I love about this movie is that there's a lot of very subtle one-liners that if you weren't paying attention, you would just completely miss.
Absolutely.
Like I wrote a couple down that I thought were really funny. One's by I don't know what to call it, the guys picking up the dead bodies. It's, if this keeps up, I'm going to open a spare parts store.
Oh, I have that highlighted.
It's so morbid but hilarious.
I love that line.
Yeah.
A tiny casket.
Oh yeah, the tiny casket line. Because like when I first heard that, I was just like, this movie knows what it's doing.
Oh gosh. And he's like, when we get done with this, I'm going to buy you an iguana.
I bet there is a giant iguana movie. There's a 100% a killer iguana movie.
Oh, Giant Gila Monster's a movie.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's actually just do this right now. Is there any movie? Has every giant monster movie been made? Right, giant animal movie. Like,
okay, ants.
Done. There's an ants movie. Night of the Lupus, done.
Alligators and crocodiles.
Easy.
Sharks.
Millions of those.
Lizards.
Yes, but I think those are predominantly Sci-Fi Channel. There's like giant gecko versus killer frog. Right?
Moths.
Huh. Well, there's Godzilla, but that doesn't
Mothra.
quite count.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Sharks have been done.
Giant eels, probably. I don't know giant eels.
Yeah.
I was just getting at it. It feels like any type of like animal, people have done a big animal movie about it.
Yeah.
Like maybe there's not one for buffalo. There might not be like killer buffalo.
Dude, imagine a giant buffalo stampeding.
Oh, I mean, I can, and it's pretty awesome.
Wait, in Kong versus Kong, oh, that's a different universe. You have that giant water buffalo that comes out of the water. That thing's huge.
I don't know what that is.
Oh, wait, Kong Skull Island.
Oh yeah.
There's a giant water buffalo. I don't know how any creatures are alive on that island with those skull crawlers around. I think everything would be dead.
Well, unless they just get eaten.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, no, what's good about this movie too is this is based on the urban legend about alligators in the sewers in New York. So you take an established, okay, I want to make a Jaws knockoff. Even the director and the editor, they contacted the editor of Jaws to figure out how to make cheap scares. Did you know that?
Not at all.
Yeah, so the director, he contacted Verna Fields, and he wanted to know how to rip off scenes from Jaws. And she helped him. She talked on the phone with him for 30 minutes on how to edit it to rip off scenes from Jaws. Which is unbelievable.
That's funny. But good for her. She's so like confident, like, I'm good at what I do. Come at the king. Come at the queen, I guess.
Isn't it awesome? Like, this is how you scare people with alligators. And so you take an established myth, right? You take alligators in the sewers, and then you sort of do a Jaws knockoff. But that's how you should do it. Like, if you're gonna do a knockoff or a ripoff, you should take kind of an already established urban legend and then just knock that off, if that makes sense. Like, it makes it a little bit more organic as a knockoff or a ripoff because there's already that urban legend around, if that makes sense.
Yeah, this is funny. I also was trying to think about this earlier. There are some other like monsters in the sewer movies. Chud.
Yep. Mimic.
They came from that same, probably, like, there's monsters in this area. But I was thinking to myself, what urban legend would I turn into a horror movie if I had the opportunity? And I picked Loveland Frog Man.
Whoa.
I know a lot of you and probably your listeners are like, what the hell is this guy talking? So I am from Cincinnati. Loveland is near Cincinnati. And there is a very small urban legend story about this is so delicate. I'm talking about it on your podcast about a frog man who is also a wizard. And it's just a frog man in a hat in Loveland.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, make that movie.
Yeah, I was like, I could make a horror movie about the frog man. That sounds pretty fun.
Hell comes to Frog Town.
Hell comes the frogs come to Loveland.
Oh gosh, yeah, make that movie. Yeah, at first I was thinking Skunk Ape because you and I we got our masters together at Florida State. Did you ever see Jimmy Avery's documentary about the like skunk ape in Florida and the guys who hunt it?
I did, but it's been a decade.
It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. So I was thinking that, but then Max Brooks came up with a book called De-Evolution about, like, there's a Mount St. Helena erupts and it displaces a bunch of Bigfoot who find a remote, like, really rich person, like, eco-friendly place, and the Bigfoot attack it, and it's like this gigantic battle between humans and Bigfoot, and it's like really bloody and gory. So I mean, I guess Bigfoot's a legend, right? So I would want to see de-evolution made into a movie.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good one.
But I want your
That'd
movie
be really
first.
funny.
I would watch your movie first.
I mean, it would be weird.
That's the one I want. Any frogs and hats, like, and who's a wizard?
Yeah, I will, Mark. I'm going to send you the story. I'm going to find the Wikipedia page and send it to you just so you can read it. Yeah, I think what makes a really good urban legend, or like urban legend casting here, that you can then turn into a movie, is it has to be a little bit scary, right? So like, you know, kind of a scary animal. Alligators and crocodiles are scary. Like a giant rat could be really scary.
Oh yeah.
Actually, that's probably a pretty good one. Like, imagine a movie that takes place in New York City where there's just a giant rat running around. I'm into that.
Yeah, I mean that could happen. Giant rats, because there is giant rat.
They're already like 17 pounds.
Do you? So like, I love Crawl and I love this movie, and they actually get the gators probably from like they get them by the coast. But I grew up with alligators in Florida. Like I didn't live next to them. Like we weren't buddies at a coffee shop. But gators for me weren't ever scary, I guess, because you know how to be safe of them. You know how to stay away from them. When you see them, like I've canoed over gators before, like kayak, like next to gators. I've spent a ton of time, like one time, I swear to you, man, the biggest alligator I've ever seen in my life went underneath my canoe, and you're just like, hey, it's a gator. I was more scared of water moccasins, actually. I almost jumped on one time in a spring, which would have been a nightmare, but I guess I was never scared of them. But a lot of people who don't live near gators, are they something scary? Like when you were in Ohio, and you're back in Ohio.
They're terrifying. The first time I saw a gator in Florida, I was like, what is this? I do not want to go near this. Like, yeah, they're horrible. They're prehistoric dinosaurs with chompy, sharp teeth that can run fast on land and swim fast. Like, get them away from me.
So you and I kind of have different viewpoints of them, huh? Or we're like,
yeah, they're terrifying.
I've always respected gators. I've always had a healthy respect to stay away from them, but it's more of just that, a healthy respect, not a fear, if that makes sense.
Well, I think what's going to happen here is like we're going to do grizzly next, and we're going to inverse, right?
Yeah.
Because like that's sort of those are sort of the animals I'm used to, like more of like bears, wolves, Midwest predators is what I'm gonna call them, big cats. Like not that I would go near them, right? I wouldn't go near them, but it's like, oh, I'm not gonna freak out if I see one. Freak out if I see a gator though.
Piranha, when we get to that, that's what gives me nightmares. That's what keeps me up at night. Those things are horrifying. But yeah, like, I mean, I just think this movie takes an established. Okay, you know what's great about this movie too is it gives you genuine emotions. You have the pharmaceutical company who cut dogs' larynxes, do studies on them, so that they can figure out ways to genetically modify food because there's a world food crisis. And if you look at all the GMO with chicken and steroids, like it's kind of an interesting. They base it on a actual legend, urban myth, and then they base it on pharmaceutical or companies who are trying to get approval from the FDA to include steroids and genetic modification to animals to make them grow faster. So it's kind of this movie is quite based in reality, even though it's a bonkers movie with an alligator that got built so big they couldn't really use it, and then they built one that was so flimsy it kept breaking. But it's super silly. But then then at the end, I never really cheer death, but when the bad pharmaceutical people get it, who have been cutting the larynxes of puppies and slaughtering them, you kind of have a great time with it. There's a weird cathartic. It's very cathartic. The alligator does get revenge on the things that created it. I don't know if you felt that way about that.
Oh, I love movies where I can cheer for the bad guy to kill other bad people. So they killed that pet store owner. I was like, yeah, that you deserve it. I hope he death rolls you a bunch.
Oh, what a really terrible guy.
Oh, horrible. He probably stole the dog that he sold to David to then sell it again to the pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, that's when he got it, you're like, yes, this guy's a dog murderer, kidnapper. You know how many people, you know how many families he's made sad? Like just And then the scientists, when they get it, just casually talking about slitting dogs' larynxes so they can't bark. Man.
Yeah, as a dog owner. And this is our second movie we've done in a row where dogs have been hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. And oh yeah, Brotherhood of the Wolf.
Yeah.
And then this one.
So I did have some things I wanted to ask you about this movie.
Yeah.
So I think you answered this. I think we're on the same page here. But is this a revenge?
Yes.
And the revenge is the alligator
Absolutely.
going against the people who he watched his mother being beat. He was taken from his family, and then he was flushed down a toilet.
And then genetically modified.
Yeah, he just wanted to be an alligator, and the world wouldn't let him.
Man, yeah, that dad and you know what's crazy? It's Marissa's, or I guess we could call her lizard lady, or a snake lady. It was her alligator, correct?
Yeah, but yeah, it was, but she never showed up.
Yeah.
And I guess we should give the alligator's name is Ramon.
Yes.
Or Alexander if you want to go by the people trying to sell paraphernalia.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, Ramon or Alexander was Marissa's gator.
Arrest him for being a creep. That's like one of my favorite lines in that movie.
But do you think that would happen? I would 100% envision a world where if there's an animal killing people, someone will immediately try to make money off it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The only thing that I think is unrealistic is calling it Alexander the Alligator. It's too many syllables. I think it would be Gary the Gator.
Yeah, Alexander the Alligator. Well,
too many syllables.
Alexander the Alligator. Gary the Gator. Yeah, Gary the Gator. Or like, Croc. What would go with Croc?
Oh, I mean, Rock the Croc.
Yeah, Rock the Croc, not Rick the Croc. Doc Croc.
Just a name that doesn't even matter.
Doc the Croc.
This is Bartholomew the Croc.
Dr. Croc. Yeah, Bartholomew the crocodile. But Alexander, geez Louise. But yeah, no, I think this is a revenge film because this gator has really been dealt a bum hand. It's mutated. It's been feasting off of dogs that have been chemically and like genetically modified. This thing has become a man killer though. This gator.
Yeah.
Like it. Yeah. It does not care. It's just angry at the world. And it's kind of like the Phantom of the Opera. Like this thing has every right to be angry at humans. So it just kind of stays in it, and then eventually it busts out because they force it out of its territory. But you know what's interesting? It must eat. Do you know how many dogs they kill for it to stay alive and grow? Because
has to be so many. Yeah,
because like she made a great point. Marissa made a great point when she said that it would starve in a week. So the amount of it's getting fed dogs almost every day. That's crazy.
And that's probably it might be why it's turned to people because they were having a hard time getting dogs. They ran through the dogs like, well, gotta eat something.
Exactly. And then it just goes munching on police officers biting off legs. Like it's become a man killer. So I think it was a nice gator. Its parents were horribly abused and then it just lost its mind in a gutter with methane and genetic modification.
Okay. So I have another question for you, and this comes from my Instagram page. Someone I was talking to wanted to talk about it. So, do you like Alligator or like Placid better?
Oh, dude, I don't like Lake Placid.
I don't either. I think the Oliver Platt character
best part
is terrible.
Really? He's my favorite part.
Yeah. He drives me absolutely insane in that movie. It feels like he is a representative of the time in America that was super misogynistic and sexist, and like he just is all of it in one character.
Wow. See, that's actually a great point. I guess I just like his character because he's the only one that's actually having fun. Like Bill Pullman's in it, Brendan Gleeson's super serious, Fonda is just really underwritten, and I don't like it. Like, you have Betty White being foul-mouthed, like the tone is all over the place. And, I watched it in 99. I liked it.
I did as well in 99. But
yeah. And like, people love it, man. And I think it has some really neat visuals when the alligator bites on the pole and someone's on the other side of it. I think the gator is done beautifully, but it's such an odd tone and it never gels for me like Alligator does. Alligator is a better movie, a much better movie than Lake Placid is.
It holds together better, right? There's more of a narrative.
Yeah. It's
probably, I would say, more suspenseful as well.
Listen, the nice thing about Alligator is this is what makes the best thrillers, this is what makes the best creature feature. You have Robert Forster and Marissa Kendall, and you have other side characters like the photographer, which you need to get the photos out, and you have the chief played by Chief Clark. But it's so simple. It's just a cop who has a weird St. Louis backstory, which isn't totally necessary. But you get this cop who he teams up with the scientist to get an alligator in the sewers that's been genetically modified. It's very very meat and potatoes. But I felt like Lake Placid, you have the locals, and you have Fonda, then you have Platt, and then you have Betty White. Like, there's just so many different elements. Like, you got to keep these things focused and centered, if that makes sense. Like, yes, you can have different adventures, but I like how focused and centered this movie. So that's why I think it's better.
I think it's better too. This is going to be a harder question. How does this compare to Crawl? Almost impossible. Like I think I might like Crawl better, but it's minuscule. These are still two very good movies.
You know what? That's probably the hardest question I've ever had to answer in my life, because I absolutely love Alligator. Like, I think Kaya and Barry Pepper are great in Crawl, but Robert Forster's performance in this movie, he's like one of my most likable performances, I think. And like, I love the relationship between him and Robin Riker and Forster are great together. I love just the cheekiness of it. Like, it's not a submarine when they're talking about blowing up the gator. And, oh man, jeez Louise. But then Crawl, with the bathroom fight and the overhead shots. You know what? They're so different. But I guess I have to pick one, right? Oh man, this sucks.
Well, we don't necessarily have to pick one. But the thing is, like, we can get gray area to this, right? So Crawl is about normal sized gators that aren't mutated at all, and this is about a giant gator that is mutated. So they're kissing cousins, but they're different, genres.
Yeah.
Subgenres.
One's a survival piece. Like, one's a survival thriller, and then the other one is more of a creature feature comedy.
A home invasion movie.
It's a home invasion movie, and then this one's more of a kind of detective creature feature, traditional creature feature. But okay, Crawl. Okay, let's do. This is gonna take a while, but 5 categories. Iconic imagery, I'll give to Crawl. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Overhead shot in the bathroom alone.
Beautiful. Okay, and then characters. I think Robert Forster is unbelievable in this movie, so I'm gonna give it that.
He has the most presence out of all the characters, yeah. I like out all the characters, but he actually has like a personality. The other ones are just trying to survive. And
best plot, I'm going to give to Crawl, because I love Robert Forster's backstory, but all that St. Louis stuff isn't totally necessary. I mean, I guess it's fine, but...
They're trying to give him motivation to continue hunting for the alligator after he was kicked off the force, which I get it, but they didn't tie it together.
Crawl is just so simple. Like a swimmer, boom. What put the biggest smile on my face? I mean, I love the song at the end of Crawl, but I mean, the lines in this movie when he says to her, "I'm a pain in the ass sometimes. Like, you're just gonna have to learn to deal with me." And then the mom with the evil eye scene, and he's like, you have a wonderful brain, you have a doctorate, you have great, other things. Putting a smile on my face, I'm gonna go with Alligator. So we're tied at 2-2.
Okay.
But I'm gonna give the victory to Crawl, because there's a scene where Kaya's hand is bit, but she has a gun in her hand, and she still manages to like blow up the alligator that bites her arm. And it's just so... I just love Alejandro Aja. So I'm gonna go... let's say Crawl.
It's Crawl. I mean, I knew it was coming. It's Crawl. Not that Alligator is not great. It is great. You've just obviously shown that's difficult. These are 2 really good movies.
I mean, they're just so different too, and you just... But yeah, I will go with Crawl, because they're both good movies made by very capable people. But when that alligator bites her hand and she has a gun in her hand and just starts shooting it while her hand is bit, I mean, come on, man. That's like...
It's so good.
Yeah. And bro, like, I was in Florida in a thing called the No Name Storm, where I woke up and in my dad's trailer, there was just water up to our ankles. And so then we packed up what we had, and my dad's car was completely flooded. It was you could only see the top of his car, and we had to leave the trailer because it wasn't safe anymore. And you're in salt water, right? With maybe gators, right? Maybe sharks. And we had to grab onto a boat, put our stuff in, and then the boat took us to like a shelter. We had to get transported by bus to a shelter. But like Crawl brings back memories of that.
Wow.
And even people, what annoys me though? People like go, "Oh, it's a crawl space in Florida," but it's not a basement. Homes in Florida have to be above a certain level if you're by the water. So what a lot of people do is they put lattice around it, or concrete, like pillars to get it off the ground. So it makes sense that there's a crawl space when you're in a home near the water. So that argument's like debunked for me when people are like, oh, basement in Florida. But yeah, that's it also, I feel, because I haven't been chased by an alligator, but I've been in situations where it just feels like home. So, and also it's a swimmer from UF being attacked by gators, like a gator being attacked by gators. It's so stupid and simple and beautiful.
I know, that's why we covered it, loved it. I did want to change the conversation a little bit and talk about Jaws in relation to this movie. And one of the things I think we should do in this series is rank the movie we just watched on how Jaws it is on a scale from. In this case, I think this movie is like 7.58 out of 10 Jaws.
Okay, so we're saying
that's how similar. It's how similar it is.
Oh, okay. Okay, so like we're not saying how like a quality rip, how similar it is to Jaws.
How similar it is.
Well, you get the cop.
Yeah.
Who you have two cops. No one believes them in the beginning. No one listens to them. There's no.
You have the hunter.
There's no. But you know what's interesting? Like, yeah, you have the hunter. You have the villain.
Teaming up with the scientist.
Yep. Oh yeah, Oh my gosh, teaming up with the scientist. You have the evil mayor, and then you have the mayor who's in cahoots with the big pharma. So you have two evil mayors. You have children in danger. I mean, child does get eaten.
In both, right?
Yeah. Wait, does a kid die? Yeah.
Yeah. And a dog.
Dog's death? Wow. Yeah.
I'm up to 7.58% similarity to Jaws.
You have both behind the scenes, the alligator, they made it look great, but it was so heavy they couldn't move it. So they both had major issues with the creatures. You know what's funny? The director saw that the alligator couldn't move and okay, this is a really funny story. They got two linebackers, giant guys who were in the NFL, to get inside this alligator costume and walk with it, but they couldn't walk. They had to shuffle, and the entire crowd who saw it started laughing because it looked like a little alligator doing tiny shuffles on the street with two large burly men inside of it.
Wow.
And it was at that moment that the director goes, "This has to be a comedy." So they went and completely rewrote it and turned it into a comedy, which makes me very happy.
Yeah. And Jaws has funny moments, but it's not a comedy.
No,
that's a differentiator.
I guess the one thing is they both had problems behind the scenes, so then you kind of they're similar in that regard. But yeah, it's not a comedy. I mean, both of the creatures explode. Jaws explodes, and so does Ramon.
They basically rip off the Jaws theme at one point.
Yep. Oh man, so bad.
And the iconic someone swimming in water scene.
Yep.
And there's water. There's just water.
And they find body parts. Remember in Jaws, they find the head, correct?
Yeah.
So then they find body parts. Is there like a pain in the butt photographer in Jaws?
There is one in the second one, but I don't know when the second one came out.
Okay. So, yeah, you know what? I'm going to give it an 8 because, I mean, there's so many similar plot moments. So, yeah, definitely an 8.
Yeah, 8 Jaws out of Jaws.
8 Jaws.
Teeth out of Jaws.
Now, can we do the Jaws ripoff scale about, like, is it a worthy ripoff of Jaws or is it a shameless ripoff? So, like, 10 is worthy ripoff. 1 is shameless ripoff. Where would it fall 1 through 10?
I think this is, again, it's like 8, or maybe higher. It might be a 9. This is definitely a worthy. Problem is that Jaws is iconic. Mm-hmm. So like 8 is probably the highest any of these ripoffs are going to get.
Yeah, because I mean there have been movies that have like look at Alien. You know how many elements Alien ripped off, but it's still a 10 movie. So it ripped off. If you watch Memories of Alien, you will see. I think it's on Paramount or Peacock. You can see just how much that movie ripped off other movies.
The Thing?
Yeah. Like, so if you see it, you'll know. So it rips off movies, but it's still a 10 movie. So Crocodile didn't want to be Alien, but it still didn't leave an impact in society. So yeah, let's give it an 8.
Yeah, I think so too. It's definitely, I think we started on a really high one. I'm a little nervous for like Piranha, which is also written by the same person.
And Joe Dante directed, man. Joe Dante, Inner Space, Gremlins. He's a beast.
Yeah, so we'll see with that one. I have no like understanding of what Deep Star 6 and Grizzly. Like those are just outside of my knowledge. But it was a good one to start with.
Yeah, I mean, we started on a high, I mean, listen, this movie's unbelievable. There's cops with rocket launchers, right? Who are just showing up to blow up an alligator. There's also Robert Forster's outfits. Like he's in this shirt, in this thing, he has a pink Henley V-neck, and then later on he's wearing another pink shirt. Like it's some really interesting 1980s outfits. And then I love the dialogue. There's a scene where when Marissa comes back to David's apartment. And she's like, when I met you, I knew you were a guy who would have an apartment like this. Like,
it's so good. It's so good.
And I love that he comes back to apologize to her. And she's like, you want to go look at my rock collection? Like, it's a wonderful dialogue. Those two are so good together. She said that her and Robert just hung out a lot and sat and smoked weed. She said he wasn't doing it while acting, but she said the two of them just sort of hung out. Robert Forster, 12 days before this movie started, he had spinal meningitis and he was in the hospital for a month. And then when he got out, 12 days later, he started making this movie and he lost a ton of weight. And so you have a star who was in the hospital for a month and had 12 days to prep for this movie to make it.
I had viral meningitis when I was little, and let me tell you, it is no joke. It
Really?
is. Yeah. So it's slightly different, obviously, but it is no joke. I was sick in the hospital for like 4 days. It's impressive that he did that.
He's a beast. And also, they shot this movie in 25 days.
That's all?
Yeah. And I was thinking about it. So obviously I was thinking about it in my head. Like, where else would you think about this movie? Like, I'm not Doctor Strange. I don't astral project. But that's a big schedule, man. That's quite gnarly. And Bryan Cranston helped stuff the alligator full of Karo syrup and foam chunks. So Bryan Cranston was a PA on this movie, and he was a runner, and he hated it. So then they're like, hey, we need a special effects PA. He's like, I'll do it. So then it was his job to fill up that alligator that exploded with Karo and foam chunks. So when it exploded, that was him.
Good for him.
Yeah.
And then they tie back into Breaking Bad.
Oh, yeah. Because Robert Forster.
Yeah, he's at the end of Breaking Bad.
Did you hear the story that Bryan Cranston told about being with Robert Forster?
No.
Oh, so, and I really related to this because I worked on a bunch of film sets, and sometimes I was with first team, so you're responsible for dealing with the actors, but I was never comfortable with it because on some sets you just couldn't speak to the actors. Like, it was very haughty. Like, the industry needs a change. So then when they were friendly actors, David, like, you don't know what to do. There are some actors that were really nice to me, and I just went, buh. I didn't know how to react because I was so used to cranky people. But Bryan Cranston was sitting in a van. You just wait on you park your car and you take a van to set. Forster jumps in and Forster's like, "Hey man, how you doing? Like I'm Forster. Like nice to meet you." And Cranston's like, "Hi, I'm this." And he's like, "Well, what do you do?" He's like, "I'm a PA." He's like, "Well, what unit?" He's like, "Well, I do special effects. I'm loading the alligator with chunks." And Forster was just going, "That's awesome. Like you loading it? Like that's cool." And so Cranston said that he was just so present and interested in what Cranston was doing that it was really a big motivator for Bryan Cranston to keep acting. And years later, when Forster popped up on Breaking Bad, Cranston was like, "Hey, do you remember when we talked on Alligator?" And Forster goes, "No." But he said he's just the nicest dude, and he was so stoked to be on Breaking Bad. But the story he tells on the Shout Factory Blu-ray just put a huge smile on my face, hearing him tell it. And it was so cool that Cranston showed up to do it. But yeah, that was
awesome.
That was a neat story that he told about working on this film. But I don't know, it's another cool thing. There's just so much to like about it, though. I mean, the key scene. Have you ever seen a moment like that in a movie where he throws keys in the air, catches it?
Just does something weird to do something weird on camera.
Yeah.
It has a little bit of this vibe with Treat Williams. And he has to fight the monster on the ghost ship, or the monster on the ship.
Oh, Treat Williams has to. Deep Rising.
Deep Rising. This movie has a little bit of Deep Rising in it. It's that mix of horror, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of action. It's like, I'm gonna say it's like a prototypical like mummy movie.
Yeah. No. I absolutely, I 100% believe that. And there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of lines that come back later on too that are really funny. When the guy tries to blow up the police station, which brings in the clock and the dynamite, or brings in the clock conveniently, which is used later on to blow up the alligator. But when they capture the guy and he's just listening to music, he tells the cop who has all the paperwork, remember he was throwing the paper airplane, he's like, "Hey, with all your paperwork, come write him up." Like, that's a bit that comes back 5 minutes later. Like there's really snappy writing on this, but you're right though. I mean, when they were making this film, when Louis Teague was directing the scenes where people were being jettisoned into the air by a alligator tail and fly into cake,
so hard.
like you knew that was funny. Like that's not, and that's what Deep Rising is. Like they knew moments were funny. This wasn't just people are like, oh, it's so cheesy. No, they meant to have fun. This wasn't an accident.
Can we talk a little bit about the screenwriter?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I did some basic research on him. Nothing too deep. What I really like about him is that, one, he's a MacArthur Fellow. Kind of amazing.
Wow.
But he wrote genre work so he could make money to film his own, like, quote, more serious stuff, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, like, some of the genre work, he did Battle Beyond the Stars. I think that's really cool. And he did The Howling, which I also think is pretty cool.
Great movie.
Yeah, so I was gonna look up some more of the things he's done, just because, like, I generally lean more genre.
Like Piranha.
Yeah, Piranha. That's one of the ones. I just haven't seen it. Like I know that's one that everyone's like, you should see Piranha. That's why it's on this list. That's why we're gonna do it.
I mean, he wrote Lone Star.
Yeah, and then like Return of the Secaucus 7. That was like his first major one. But yeah, like legit, it's an interesting choice to someone who straddles the line of both literary and genre.
Yeah, I mean, he also wrote 8 Men Out. Like this is a guy who. But you know what I love too is what's nice about him is he took it seriously writing these scripts. Like when he talked about writing it, he said, okay, so the way these movies start are these animals attack somewhere on the fringes and then they make their way into the city. So he just had a basic structure. He rewrote it. He made it likable. Like they told him what they wanted. They're like, hey, we want a Jaws knockoff. So he just went and wrote the best Jaws knockoff in 3 weeks, but he took it seriously, which is nice because you feel like a lot of these sci-fi movies, they just don't take it seriously. They're just
don't
like,
understand it.
Yeah, they're like, it's schlock.
They want to get it done as fast as possible to cash in.
Exactly. And like, I know they know what they're making, but they don't try. And I feel like this movie feels that's what elevates it though, because there's some really good moments. There's just some fun moments. Like the alligator's not a submarine. Like that's a beautiful line.
Also, they're throwing grenades into the water.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Oh man, and just
cool.
the camera flash, and they're like, "Can you imagine being eaten?" Oh man, there's a headline in this movie. What headline is it? It says, "Reporter takes pics of his own killer." That's a headline on a paper in this movie.
It's pretty awesome. That's a pretty great headline.
It's just funny.
So that's something I did want to chat about. I'm a former reporter. I was a reporter for 5 years. I have a degree in journalism. Everyone hates reporters. And I just want to finally have a chance to talk about this. Everyone hates reporters. Y'all, it is the hardest job possible. Everyone hates you. You're not paid anything. The hours are super long, and everyone thinks they can do it better than you. So like whenever I see someone like making fun of reporters, I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. You literally have no clue. You just think you do. It's not like you can show up someplace and force someone to answer your questions. You can keep asking. That doesn't mean they're going to answer your question.
Yeah. So do you think the reporter got a bad rap on this movie?
I think he got a bad rap. Well, one, I would say that the movie conflates reporters and columnists. He is a columnist.
Oh.
He has more leeway in the things he writes. He basically can write opinion. He's not a straight.
Got it.
Because they call him both at one point.
Oh, okay.
That also drives me crazy. There's a difference between the editorial page and the difference between the news section. You need to learn those two. You really need some media literacy. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess a reporter just reports the news, and then a columnist can include their own opinion on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
So another thing I feel like I'm just like going through a bunch of stuff.
Didn't the guy in Jaws take photos? Didn't they develop footage or something?
I don't know. Definitely in the there's definitely a reporter in the second one.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking.
But I can't remember the first one. I mean, we might be conflating it with when they took pictures of what they found inside of the shark.
Oh yeah, they're doing that.
Right. I want to talk more about Robert Forster. Are there any other movies that you think your audience should check out?
Oh, well, The Wolf of Snow Hollow, that was his final performance. He's absolutely wonderful in that. Jackie Brown. I don't know if you ever watched Jackie Brown, but
yeah, but it's been a long time.
Yeah, he's unbelievable in that movie. Like Tarantino was a huge fan of his. And he and Pam Grier are really good together. He's such like a warm presence in that film that I definitely think you should watch that movie. He plays a guy called Max Cherry. He's really good in that. Let's see. Oh, he was Dr. Simon in the Psycho remake. He's the one who shows up and does all that.
Is that the Lars Van Trier?
That's the Gus Van Sant.
There you go, Gus Van Sant. It's a shot-for-shot remake, and you're like, what?
I can't stand. Like, he's also in Mulholland Drive. He's really good in Me, Myself, and Irene. He knows how to find the humor in that. Let's see.
He's in the Delta Force, but I don't remember those movies well enough to recommend it.
Let's see. Lucky Number 11.
Right. The Black Hole. Okay, The Black Hole is a movie that I remember really liking as a kid. I don't know if it holds up. I'm not going to call it a Star Wars clone, but it's definitely like Star Wars inspired.
Oh, man.
Disney. It's a Disney. It's a kid's movie. Except the ending's really terrifying, and I had nightmares from it. But yeah, it's a kid's movie.
So yeah, you know what? I'm gonna say Jackie Brown. Just go back and watch Jackie Brown. I know he did many movies in the 80s. I know he's been walking around for a long time. Black Hole. I mean, he was working with Corman before this. He was doing TV. Like, he's been acting since the 60s. But I just love him in Jackie Brown, and I think that's a movie that a lot of people have slept on in Tarantino's filmography, and he gets a big role in it too.
It's his most straightforward movie, right?
Let's see.
I mean, it's based off
Elmore Leonard.
Yeah, I mean, I think it might be straightforward.
Yeah, I guess it in regards to like non-linear and storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I would. Well, okay. Kill Bill's all over the place. There's so many flashbacks. Inglourious Bastards is all over the place. Hateful Eight. No, but there's twists and turns. So yeah, I'd say Jackie Brown. That makes sense. I like that. I know I'm not being too creative here, but I'm gonna say that.
Do you want to do your five favorite things?
Oh yeah. Okay. You want to start?
Yeah, I'm gonna do an honorable mention first. And I know this is not gonna be picked by either of them. It is one of my favorite tropes in any city. Cities are filled with alleys. That's one of those things that I love seeing. It's like, you know what cities have? All these alleys. They do not. Especially expensive cities. Every little space is filled up. There's like 2 alleys in New York City. And I'm not kidding. I used to live down the street from an alley that has basically been on every CW show possible. And I would walk down the street and I would just stand there and be like, oh, they're filming one of those superhero movies down there.
Another alley.
But alleys, they don't exist in the cities. They're just not there. All right. Like, that space is valuable and someone's going to build something in it. Okay. So number 5, my top 5 favorite things. 5, the smart gator. I love that he gets out of the sewer and no one can find a 40-foot gator.
Yeah.
He's just like hiding in some trash, hiding in a pool, and everyone's like, where's this gator?
It must have deep blue seed itself with the genetic modifications. It just made it smarter.
It can walk backwards, Mark.
Because it is hiding in trash. It's leaving huge dumps. It's blending in leaf covered pools. Oh, I love a smart gator. That's perfect. I'm gonna say, do you want to see my rock collection? Because that's so funny. I can't. It makes me so happy. So yeah, do you want to see my rock collection? That's mine.
Yeah. I have another quote. My 4th one is, must have been a pretty small casket when they're talking about finding a guy's small toe.
Oh yeah.
It's so funny.
Man, that's gnarly. Is that your number 5 or is that just an added line?
That's my number 4.
Oh, 4. Oh wow. Okay. Let's see. You know what? I'm gonna do the opening jump scare when they're in the tunnel, when Kelly and Forster are in the tunnel, and they move the flashlight up and the alligator's behind them. I yelled, "Holy shit, mate!" Oh, I yelled, "Holy shit!"
I jumped too. Yeah, it's good.
I yelled that, and so yeah, that's my number 4.
My number 3 is another quote. We've talked about it already. If this keeps up, I'm going to open a spare parts store.
Yeah.
It's so morbid and funny, and I was shocked that they said it, and it's good. I like it.
Beautiful. What a line. 3 for me is cake destruction. A guy gets pole vaulted 20 feet into a cake and just explodes it, and it's beautiful. So that's my number 3.
Question is, would you rather be tossed into chocolate cake or vanilla cake?
Vanilla cake, because then I could I prefer vanilla cake, so I just snack on that.
Stains less.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 2. This is a scene. It's when Brock is flirting with the TV anchor and mimicking the alligator sounds.
Oh, yeah.
He says, alligators are very romantic creatures.
Yes. I have that highlighted and boxed in my notes. They're very
so
romantic.
Good.
Okay, so that's beautiful. I'm gonna say for my number 2 is when they're in the sewers at the end waiting for the gator to come back. They go down there with a maintenance worker, and the maintenance worker goes, "I'm taking my vacation until all this is over." And then you never see him again, and he survives.
So smart.
He just leaves, man. Like how many red shirts have been killed in movies? But then this guy's like, "I'm taking my vacation. I'm out of here."
There's wasn't there the guy in Scream 2? He's just like, I'm gone, and he leaves the cameraman, and he comes
Joel.
back. Yeah, good for him.
Yeah, that would be funny, like smart side characters who live. But
yeah, that's actually a really good story. Like that's something you should write for one of your things.
Yeah, that might be a fun episode too. Yeah, but I should write that post. That'd be great. But yeah, I just love it. I'm taking my vacation. I'm out of here. I'll see you later. It's beautiful.
Okay, my number 1 is not funny, but it gets to the essence of who I am. That's the pet store owner getting eaten by the alligator because I want my dog revenge.
Yes.
That guy deserved to get eaten, so I wish it would have lasted longer.
What a slimy man. And he just gets eaten.
Oh, terrible.
All right, so my number 1 is, I mean, listen, the kid in the pool, that's really brutal, and I love it. But I've already talked about this so many times, is when Forster throws his keys in the air and is like, "I'm going to go kick an alligator's ass." And then she's like, "I'm with you." And then, but like the smile on her face when he does that, the chemistry of those two, and it's just that's what I want, man. That's like a Tremors personality moment. I love when, Jaws, when they sing, and I love when movies take time for little scenes like that just make you love the characters. That's, Deep Blue Sea has those moments. I think Jaws has those moments. Tremors has those moments. Deep Rising has those moments. I adore all of those films. So yeah, I'm gonna take those, and that's gonna be my number 1 is the key scene.
Excellent.
And he either says ass or tail depending on which cut you watch.
That's whip tail. Whip it. Whip 'em good. Yeah,
and then
so funny.
Oh so man, funny. That tail whips too, man. Oh my gosh. I mean, gators, they're powerful, man. They explode with their tails. So I mean, a giant tail's gonna. I mean, how big was that pool? This gator's 40 feet, right?
Yeah.
That's a big pool though. That family had.
Yeah. I mean, that gator's 40 feet depending on how they decide to film it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, this gator doesn't look 40 feet.
They bring in real gators for certain scenes, and it's all Steve-less though, and it puts a smile on your, because they know it. Oh man. All right, do you want to do our 5 favorite hunters, movie hunters?
Yeah. Okay, since I went first on the 5 favorite things, I'll let you go first on this one.
Okay, so I did some weird things here, and I don't know if you're gonna appreciate it or not, but I had to do it. But my first one is not weird. It's Paul Cerrone, Jon Voight from Anaconda.
Oh, he was on my list too. I gotta take him off
because because his accent and his performance is so over the top, and it's just so. I mean, this is an Oscar winner. This guy has been in some classics movies, and he is just hamming it. It is an A+ B movie performance. It's beautiful, and he's playing a guy from, where is he from? He's like Argentina. I think he's Argentinian in this movie, and it's what and why, when, where, who, what? But yeah, I'm gonna take Paul Cerrone, Jon Voight from Anaconda.
That's a good one. So we're starting off some bangers here, and this is one that's, I think, counts. You can tell me if you don't think it counts. Robert Muldoon from Jurassic Park.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, I love that movie. I think I've talked on your podcast, but I saw it 7 times in the theater when it came out. It is one of my favorite movies of all time. So when I have an opportunity to pick something from Jurassic Park, I am going to take it.
Man, and he gets ice too. Clever girl.
Yeah.
I had his toy, Muldoon.
So did I.
Man,
his thighs weren't thick enough. They didn't make the character. He had to have those big beefy thighs.
Yeah, that guy had some legs. All right, I love it. All right, so this is a really random one, but I'm gonna take Gretel, played by Gemma Arterton from Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters.
Okay, cool. I didn't know you saw that one. That movie is wild.
It's hilarious, and it made like 200 million worldwide. It's But I just want to mix it up. But I just think she's hilarious in that movie, and just her and Renner are fun. I like her performance. It's very knowing. I mean, the reason that movie made so much money was not a mistake. I mean, it's very crocodile or alligator-esque in tone. It's silly. It has good production value, great makeup, and so I just want to add it someone different. So I'm going to put Gretel, played by Gemma Arterton, on the list.
I saw that movie in the theater, and it was one of my favorite movie-going experiences ever because the audience was yelling at the screen. So like 20 minutes in, people were like, it was like people making fun of it and having a great time. And one of the weirdest lines someone said was, "That girl has a pancake butt," and that's it. I was like, no context. I was like, what is happening in this theater?
Well, to be fair, I remember Megan and I went and watched this, and we loved it, but there's so many gratuitous shots of Gemma Arterton. That's not why I'm including it, but we both started laughing about it because they just threw in so many. They're like, when you land like this. When you stand like this. And it's just, you could play a drinking game, and don't do it because that's odd. But we just...
You'll be drunk too fast.
Yeah, I remember us just laughing about it because we're like, what is happening? But it's like it's a fun, knowing, cheeky, good time movie. So yeah, that's my pick.
Okay. So when I think of hunters, this is my number 2 pick. When I think of hunters, I think of The Ghost in the Darkness and Charles Remington.
Oh yeah.
I love that movie. I highly recommend everyone check it out. It's serious. It's not really fun, but it is a solid drama. So I want to pick him.
And is that Douglas or?
It is. It's Douglas, and Val Kilmer's in it as well. But I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, that was an event movie. So
it was huge.
I'm 40, but when that movie came out, it was an event. Like, people really look forward to that film. And just that's a perfect pick. I almost added them too. I almost had them on my list, but I went for a couple different things. My third pick is Hans Otto Jasperson from Trollhunter.
Oh, that's a good pick.
And what I love about him is, like, he has to go hunt trolls, but since he works for the government, he has so much paperwork that he has to go do so he hunts a troll. And then the next day he's having coffee explaining to the filmmakers about all the paperwork he has to fill out about each troll. And so he does this like story about how this troll put its tail in his mouth and it rolled down the hill like a rock. And he has to go, there's a troll that's sick under a bridge and he has to put a night costume on to draw blood from it to test it. Like, this guy is just beaten and battered and understaffed and overworked and underpaid, and everyone thinks he's bad, and he has a documentary crew following him around, but he's just trying to do his job. So I'm going to take Hans from Trollhunter.
I'm going to take one that is out of left field, but once I say it, I am positive you will agree with me. The Predator.
Yeah.
He's a hunter.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, that's not even he is.
Shows up on planets, goes invisible, and murders people.
Yeah, or he builds his own park, his murder park.
Oh, man. You know what I love most about that movie is, and I think we've talked about this, there's Predator scouts who go around the world, and they locate serial killers and special forces people from around the world. They kidnap them in spaceships, put them in pods, and deliver them to a planet. So the scouting system, like, there's baseball scouts for the Major League Baseball. There are hunting scouts for the Yautja.
I like how you know their name.
Yeah. I've spent so much time. Oh, gosh. No, it's a perfect pick. My fourth one, I'm going to take Samuel Jackson as Major Marquis Warren from the Hateful Eight. Because bounty hunters, like, they hunt. I know they're not hunting animals, but I love Sam Jackson in that movie. Have you seen the Hateful Eight?
I have, yeah. I saw it on actual film.
Oh,
like, he
awesome.
was touring the country.
But the finale of that movie, watching Sam Jackson and Walton Goggins, who's in Predators, by the way, so we have a nice connection there, watching them together in the finale of a Tarantino film, when there's much bigger stars who were killed off, is one of the happiest I've been in a theater. Like, Walton Goggins and Sam Jackson surviving at the end. Like, I couldn't be happier, but I just had to add Sam Jackson because I love him in this movie. And he's in Jurassic Park, too. He's popping up a lot here.
All right. This is my number 3. You're going to have to tell me if this is too much, because I think this is a famous hunter, but it might be pushing it. The deer hunter from Bambi.
Oh.
Super famous, but, maybe not in the spirit of what we're going for.
Oh, my heart sunk.
Yeah, mine did too. That's why I did it for 4 and not 5.
We have to add it, though.
I know. It's when you think of hunters, this is the one that you'll think of.
When it comes to time and presence and legacy, come on. Yeah.
I mean, Bambi was the first movie I ever saw in the theater as well, so there's a nice little.
Oh my gosh, perfect. My last one is Park Doo-won. He's the good from The Good, the Bad, the Weird, the Korean remake of The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and he is the bounty hunter in that movie. And it's just such a, I mean, in that movie you have Sung Kang-ho, you have Lee Byung-hun, you have Jung Moo-sung, and there's huge names in the Korean scene. And The Good, the Bad, the Weird is one of my favorite kind of remakes movies, and he plays a bounty hunter in it. It's just a beautiful. Kim Ji-won directed it, and it's incredibly fun. Big budget, amazing. But like as soon as we said hunters, I thought of him from The Good, the Bad, the Weird. So I'm gonna add him from one of my favorite Korean films.
Nice. My last one is Delbert McClintock from Arachnophobia.
Oh.
He is the exterminator, the super exterminator.
Oh, played by
John Goodman.
Oh man, that's a really good pick. What a famous, just the look of him is famous.
And so here are some ones I didn't pick. Burt Gunner from Tremors. I thought that was too obvious. Hector Sear, that's Oliver Platt from Lake Placid. I felt like I couldn't pick him because, I kind of railed on him earlier. And then one I'm a little sad I didn't pick is Ernie Hudson as Captain Monroe Kelly, the Great White Hunter, who also happens to be black from the Congo.
Oh, he's amazing.
He's really good in that, yeah. And then finally, Thomas Burns, he's in Surviving the Game. He's played by Rutger Hauer.
I almost added Lance Hendrickson, but I didn't want to add him because he would have to be added with Arnold Vosloo because they're a great 1-2 pick.
Yeah, I bet we could have also picked the Terminator.
Oh, yeah, that's all he does. All right, so which 5 are we going to stick with?
Yeah, that's a hard one.
Bambi Hunter.
Yeah, I mean, we have to put him in. Like, if we're doing Hunters, that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
I would consider it a personal favorite, Mark, if you let me have Muldoon. I love Muldoon so much.
Okay, that works for me.
Okay, what do you want?
I want Hans because he's just none of these hunters are dealing with paperwork. Like this is a government guy who's like, I love him in this movie, so I'm definitely gonna add him. So we have Hans, we have Muldoon, and we have the Bambi Deer Hunter.
I want Voight because it's such a weird performance.
Yeah, such a weird performance. It's glorious, but like, I mean, do you want to mix? Do we want to add a lady? Do we want to add Gemma Arterton? Just
yeah, we're happy to do that.
All right, cool. So we have a fun group here. We have Hans, Muldoon, the Bambi Hunter, and Paul Cerrone.
The Bambi Hunter. I love just the.
Oh man, this is fun.
He leads. He's the leader. Let's be honest.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is perfect. I love it. And we have a couple survivors here too. So like Cerrone and Muldoon get knocked out, but Gretel and Hans live. And then the Deer Hunter. So like, yeah, I mean, we got a good mix of people here. This was fun.
This was a lot of fun. Before we go, I feel because this is a horror movie, I do feel like we have to answer the one question that every horror fan is going to ask. What's the best kill?
The best kill. It's got to be when he kills the Great White Hunter because you just watch him slowly getting swallowed. Just also the cop. You know what? I'm going to say the cop that gets killed when the alligator explodes from the concrete because the guy's shrieking and screaming. No, like the cop sells it almost too much and he gets his leg bit off. So I'm going to go with that one because it's almost too serious for the movie. You like, I remember one time in The Rock, Michael Bay was making a movie and he said that the guy that Ed Harris was going to kill was just overacting way too much. Like he was crying and screaming. They're like, please stop, man. Like this is too much. So I'm going to say the cop. What about you?
You're too good.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Brock. I think Brock's is the best. I went back and forth between Brock and Kelly, and Kelly's the young cop. Brock's is funnier. But what I like about Kelly's is that you don't see movies where cops run away very often. And so that kind of just stuck with me. And I was like, oh, these are two guys who are actually terrified. And, Kelly's the one who bits it.
Yeah, that was bad. That was brutal.
Yeah. Okay, we didn't talk about this. This is a tangent. Kelly has chewing tobacco in his mouth while walking through the sewers. That is disgusting.
Yeah, that's gross.
And not just like anything in your mouth in the sewers is disgusting.
He could have fit up there with Forster, couldn't he have?
Probably. He could have fit on that door just like Rose or Jack could have.
No, yeah, I'm gonna say that I like it. There's some good kills in this movie. They're quite satisfying.
Yeah, and then the one that I think is my favorite, it's not a kill, that's why it's not I didn't mark it, is when the cop gets both his legs chewed off.
Oh yeah.
You don't see him die, so I'm like, well, it can't be a kill. That's just gore.
Yeah, that was nuts in the water. And the cops' reactions to it, the extras playing the cops, they reacted to it. They're like, "Holy crap!" Or I guess I could say also the guy who ramps the alligator and then blows up because of the grenades.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, those cops were terrible. By the way, they were not good at their jobs. Just follow it.
Go into the sewer with pots and pans.
Yeah, ding ding. Oh man, what a beautiful movie. Well, thank you.
They didn't have a beat either, right? Like if you're going to the wood, going in there, you better have a beat.
Those very discordant noises they were making. They could have been doing some Blink-182 or something. Or no, it was 80, so they could have been doing some Beatles. Oh gosh, no, some Bee Gees. Oh brother. But hey, well, thank you so much for joining me. And where can people find you, David?
Well, you can find me on Instagram, and I'm at awardwinners.com, or you can follow me personally at It's Me David Cross. I also co-host Award Wieners, and that is a podcast where my co-host and I watch Oscar Best Pictures, and then we make a hot dog recipe based on it. We've been on a hiatus for a little bit, but we will be back soon. Yeah, I'm pretty excited. Our next one up is Argo.
Ooh, that's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, I'm very excited about that one.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Mark.
Myself for me, Mark Hoffmeyer, for David Cross. This is Movie Films and Flicks. We'll see you next week.